Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today, we're talking Spare Us. You guys, this has been so much fun to read through. I've gotten so many positive comments from you guys, and I really appreciate that. And to celebrate, I have asked Harry to join us a little bit more on this episode and maybe read through a few of the passages with us. That is, if Harry is able to, read. But guys, thanks so much for being here. I can't wait to jump right in. We are picking up with chapter 22 if you're trying to read along with me. I say it each video, but I'm reminding you that these chapters are very short. The author did that, I believe, to mock Harry's book Spare. That's exactly how Harry wrote. He wrote 1,000,000 chapters with 4 sentences in each chapter. And the author definitely does stuff like that in this book. And it's just very cleverly written. There's some very funny, laugh out loud parts in this part of the book. So I'm excited to jump right on in. So without further ado, all right, so we pick up on chapter 22. Now what's happening here is it's time to celebrate Granny's Golden Jubilee. So Harry, why don't you tell us a little bit about Granny's Golden Jubilee?
It was a party to celebrate Granny's Golden Jubilee. All the United Kingdom went wild. However, Granny preferred to use headphones. She had only authorized artists who were members of the nobility: Queen, Prince, Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Gladys Knight, Sir Mix-a-Lot. I nodded. I smiled. I laughed aloud.
Oh, again, right off the bat, this writer is so freaking funny. That part just had me laughing in hysterics. And in case you didn't read Spare, that was something I believe it was talked about in Spare, where Harry talked about that the Queen would put in headphones sometimes if I'm trying to remember the reason why. I believe it had to do with all the noise around, if she wanted to actually hear what music was being played, something like that more clearly, she would actually have them put into headphones for her. So the author is saying here, she only liked artists who were members of the nobility, and I love that they included Sir Mix-a-Lot in that. Gladys Knight, Duke Ellington, Queen, Prince. I love it. So funny. All right. Going in from there, we go into chapter 23, and he goes into his days in the army. And again, I love Arrested Development. I've made this joke before. I said, oh my God, he is Buster Bluth, right? Because he talks about army. He literally just calls it army. And he has encounters with SEALs just like Buster Bluth. And he's obsessed with his mother. So there's that.
What was I running towards? I couldn't tell. Nothing. Oblivion. The future. Whatever that held. I just knew it couldn't be more awful than my past. I ran forwards in order to make my former life vanish. Running on empty. Running for an officer and a gentleman. The loneliness of the long-distance prince. Adieu, run, run, run. Adieu, run, run. I had the runs. And I was scoring runs, too. On the scoreboard of life, my batting average was going up. Was my bowling average going down? And when would I get out? Yet I didn't want to get out. I was in, and I wanted to get further in. I did run, run, run. I did run, run.
I was reading this, you guys. I seriously could not stop laughing. And then to hear Jay, a.k.a. Harry, put that voice to life, I lost it. I actually had to pause because when he was doing this voice, I was laughing so hard you could hear it in the background. But just the way it's written, Harry just tends to go off. The author makes Harry go off into these tangents where he's trying to talk about running, but then he gets distracted and starts saying lyrics to the song. I do run, run, run. I do run, run. I love it. It's so good. This book is really cracking me up. So from here we go into chapter 24, which again, these chapters are so short. This chapter was probably 12 sentences. So it goes into Harry's time at the army, and poor thing, something happened. Harry, tell us what happened when you're in the army.
There was a loud bang, and the door was flung open. Armed men in balaclavas came rushing in and surrounded us. They were screaming violently and waving their guns around. "Kneel," they roared. "I'm Harry," I said. "Neil's the one over there." They placed lit matches under our fingernails and yelled obscenities into our ears, mixed with personalized insults and deliberate misuses of grammar. The torture took many forms and went over many hours. When a gag was finally pulled from my mouth, we were told that this particularly vicious session had come to an end. I'd felt I had to say something. I think some of you lads take it a bit far with these stag weekends, I protested, pulling my shredded boxer shorts back on. I'm looking forward to going back to army training.
Thank you, Harry, for that very, very harrowing tale. Okay, so again, in case it got lost in the accent there, so the writer has Dum Dum confused as to where he's at. He makes us believe he's at army, but we find out, nah, he just had a rough stag weekend. And so he's whining and being a victim about that. But so we find out at the end that he's like, oh, I'm looking forward to going back to army training, meaning the whole time he was tricking us, we thought he was talking about some torture scene at the army. Again, it's the way this guy writes that's really giving me a good laugh. Just remember, Harry, if you get scared, do run, run, run. Do run, run. And don't get the runs. All right, then we're in chapter 25. Chapter 25 is about, again, being an army and how hard army is. And his example of going into how hard army is, well, he's having to read some poetry, you guys. Life is hard for him. It's tough. Harry then refers to himself as another name in this chapter. Harry, why don't you tell everybody what you called yourself?
Another failure by the Ginger Thicko Prince.
The Ginger Thicko Prince. I could not think of a better name for him, the Ginger Thicko Prince. So good. And then we go on to chapter 26. Why don't you tell them what happened in the army in chapter 26?
I had done something right for once. I had graduated. It was not my first passing out, nor would it be my last.
Wow, congratulations, Harry. And then in chapter 27, it sounds like you got deployed overseas.
I got out of the royal car onto the airway tarmac and bade farewell to my bodyguards. This was it. For the first time in my entire life, I would be without my personalized armed guard, stepping forth all alone in the world. It was a forbidding moment. I felt exposed like never before as I climbed up onto the cargo plane that would be transporting me. From now on, there would be only the combined firepower of the entire British military to protect me, as well as 70,000 trained and heavily armed troops. It was like being naked. I crossed my fingers.
Wow, Harry, thank you for letting us know all that. But seriously, guys, so again, chapter 27 was hilarious. That was the whole chapter there. But I love it. So from Harry's point of view, he's in danger, but we find out he had the entire army protecting him. He had extra firepower and bodyguards and everything in between, and yet Harry could only focus on, I felt like being naked. I crossed my fingers. All right, and then chapter 28, Harry, tell us about Afghanistan.
My first tour in Afghanistan was a whirlwind. I was flying F-7s, F-11s, F-9s. I was using all the keys on the computer keyboard. The military engineering and machinery on display were awesome to behold. There were Chinooks, Apaches, Iroquois, Kiowa, Chickasaw. Yes, the themed fancy dress parties were brilliant as well.
All right, so I think what's appealing to me about this book is I love the movie Airplane. I love just silly, nonsensical slapstick humor. And that's what I feel like we're getting here. So you think Harry's about to tell us about these military planes that he's flown. And it's just, I was using all the keys on my computer keyboard. I don't know why. It's just these simple jokes like that just make me laugh. Because again, we all know, because he does so many interviews and wrote that stupid book, how stupid Harry is. And it's funny to get a good laugh. Oh, I love it. Okay. Chapter 29 and chapter 30 ended up being my favorite chapters of this section, and I may have already said that once this video, but I'm telling you, I forgot. These two I have reread because they're so funny, chapter 29, chapter 30. So chapter 29, he's talking about being on base and how endless the sand is. There's nothing but sand. It's a million, billion, trillion... Yep, that's how it's written. Grains shifting constantly. So it's like a glimpse into Harry's brain of what he's thinking. Oh my God, all this sand. You can imagine where I'm going with this. And then he goes into his, always suffering about something. So he goes into, it made you think of eternity of loneliness and the hugeness of the universe and one's meaninglessness without it. Humbling. And he was spiraling in this philosophical hole and felt like it might not have an end. And then he was talking about what the universe is telling him based on all the sand. And then as you're reading it, it's the internal monologue is interrupted saying, "You all right, Harry?" asked his commanding officer. "Huh?" asked Harry. And the officer reveals, "Well, you've been staring at that corkboard for 45 minutes straight." You guys. So he's been staring at a corkboard thinking it was a window and being all philosophical about all the sand that he witnessed. It's just so silly, and Harry's so dumb. Then you guys, we get this masterpiece that is chapter 30. Chapter 30 has to go with it's about getting on with work at the base and how important his job is. And I'll just let Harry tell you a little about it because there's a lot to it. But oh my goodness, here we go. Just take a listen to the technical jargon thrown in here and see if you can work out for yourself what Harry might be talking about.
Thank God at last, I said. I'm sick of being thought of as the thicker royal. I'm absolutely dead set on getting stuck into some serious technical hardware. Really prove those folks wrong. Absolutely, my commanding officer said. Follow me. The machine I'd been assigned to was a device that took in all the information from the many forces in the area, plotted and followed aerial trajectories, and condensed the available intel so that we could relay it to the various teams out there, enabling us to fight the most technologically advanced war ever known in a formidably complex area. Yet the machine was deceptively simple. As it was received, all of the input data came out onto the screen in a square grid, with different shapes and formations of 4 blocks descending down to the screen. As each block arrived, I had to try and arrange it to make it fit with the data blocks already embedded underneath. Once one had made a complete line of data, it was resolved and vanished. It was a surprisingly challenging but satisfying task. Other soldiers in the same room were playing some video game. They really took it terribly seriously, and were very earnest about the whole exercise. There were lots of urgent shouting and radio communication, presumably with the other players at the other bases. But, needing to concentrate on my crucial task, I paid them no heed. In truth, I thought it somewhat inappropriate for soldiers to be playing a video game in the same room as I was handling crucial, life-saving maneuvers, but I was too junior to consider saying so to my superior officer. And there was no time anyway. New blocks kept appearing at the top of the screen and had to be managed. I always had stress sweat beating on my brow, and at the end of each shift I was so exhausted I flopped into bed, welcoming oblivion.
You guys, I'm dead. Again, I don't know if this translates just over voice, so let me explain what's happening. So Harry is talking about how inappropriate that his other fellow officers were playing a game while he was doing very hard work, and things were dropping from the sky and he was having to shift them and maneuver them around. You guys, the other soldiers were really fighting and commanding things, and I don't know military stuff, but moving things around and making things happen and keeping people safe. They gave Harry Tetris. The idiot was playing Tetris and he didn't know it, and he thought he had the most important job in the room. It's the thing. It's like when you give the little kid an unhooked, game controller or something. You say, "You're doing a good job, buddy." That's basically how this author wrote this chapter. And I have reread it. It just really makes me laugh now that I know what's going on, that he's playing Tetris, to reread the description of the important job he thinks he's doing versus what's actually happening. Again, perfect metaphor for what's going on with, I would say, with both Harold and Fraud in this case. All right. And then finally, we're going to hear about chapter 31. Harry, tell everybody what you did.
There was a pole in the middle of the camp, to which soldiers had affixed signs pointing to home. Medicine Hat, Saskatchewan, read one. Goolagong, New South Wales, read another. Mucky Gooch, Louisiana, said a third. I reflected for a moment how funny it would be if I put up a sign saying Clarence House, 3,509 miles. Everyone would laugh and think I was great. But no, I decided not to. On reflection, it would make me look like a massive wanker.
Harry wraps up this chapter by lamenting that no one in his family hugs, nor patted each other accordingly on the shoulder. We're chronically distant from each other. And so it's just more of his whining. It's pretty funny. So it wraps up, and I'm going to leave it here. We'll get into chapter 32. I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait to get to where he meets Megan and hear how this author tackles that. I'm excited. Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed this recap. A huge thank you to my co-host who did such a good job reading for Harry and speaking for Harry. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I believe he did. Guys, thanks so much for watching. As always, we appreciate you. Oh, let me give you a shout out for, let me give you a plug for Jay's channel. He is, well, Jay, tell him where to find you.
Hello there. This is Prince Harry. You may know me as the Prince, but I implore you to check out the Prince of Xbox, Dr. Bad Vibes, on YouTube and Twitch. Perhaps one day he will be king. Thank you.
Wow, Prince of Xbox. Thank you so much, Jay. You can find his channel. He is Dr. Bad Vibes here on YouTube. He plays nerdy video games and does a great Prince Harry. Thank you so much. Guys, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting. If you want to further support the show, I do encourage you to check out my Patreon. I do a lot of extra content over there, deep dives, lots of fun stuff. I even cover episodes of Sex and the City if that's your jam, but a lot of Harry and Meghan stuff. So check that out. It's patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. That's where you can become an executive producer. I'd like to thank my executive producers so much for all the support. So I'm going to read your names, and if you want to become one, check it out on patreon.com. All right, a huge thank you to Linda. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you to Mary. Thank you to Amy. Thank you, Mr. K. Thank you, Kay. Thank you to Shauna and to Brenda. Thank you, Aaron and Frank. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Ann M. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Ann H. Thank you, Karen. Thank you to Corey. Thank you to Glennis. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Dewey. Thank you to Patty. Thank you to Adair Becker. Thank you to Erica. Thank you, Amber. Thank you to Annette, to Barb G. Thank you, Diana LOL. Thank you, Allison B. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, KT. Thank you, Jolene. Thank you, Stromboli. Thank you to Catherine. Thank you to Loie. Thank you to Lucy H. Thank you to Georgia. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Robin's Landing. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Mara. Thank you, Ashley C. Thank you, Molly. Thank you to Amber. Thank you to Ashley. Thank you to Amanda. Thank you to Michelle. Thank you, Sansquid. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you to Dee Dee. Thank you to Nina. Thank you to Heather. And thank you to Tracy. So if you would like your name shouted out and as an executive producer, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to bring you the next part of Spare Us. Take care. Bye-bye.